All right, so we have a special topic of the week this week, and me and James are just gonna reminisce about the NEC for Dummies and just pretty much everything we've done in the last few years, and
Yeah.
about the death match, everything else. We probably ran the death match, attempted to run the death match about 4 times now. But,
Yeah.
well, the first time was definitely practice. Now we're at super practice. And then
Well,
now the one's going to be super for real now. But
yeah. Well, it was for real starting January, and that thing shut down on me. Boy, I was so upset. But as I was looking at the topic this week, we were talking about it, I just put on there whatever we want to talk about. And based on that, NEC for Dummies, good job. Y'all, that group is growing. So I made a little video for you, just a quick
awesome.
little thing.
Awesome, brother. I like it.
You know what that come from? That was
What's that?
that was a carnival.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I started laughing. I was like,
Okay.
I'm gonna do that. We ain't done something that corny in a while.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that means a lot to Juan. A lot of times what I always said, and a lot of people don't understand it, if you don't correctly support any of your raceways, that raceway is going to tell on you. When you go to pull the wire, it's going to rip stuff out of the wall. I mean, you're going to have problems if you go to pull and you're not correctly supported per code. So I've seen that a lot of times where the inspector's like, yeah, well, if you're at 12 foot, it's not going to hurt me. It's going to hurt you when that conduit sags when you get a bunch of 350s in there, and that conduit can't hold the weight of 350s because you're like one support's just a self-tapping screw, and then the next 12 foot you got another self-tapping screw. That thing's gonna rip out of the wall. I have a really funny story. We had an apprentice. He used all easy anchors, 100% easy anchors, the whole entire run on drywall. And I had no idea. They were like, yeah, just go in there, pull the wire. We could make it up, everything. Oh yeah, cool. But I was so proud of myself. Went in there, pulled the wire, made it all up. Got the inspector out there, got the final inspection. Everything's good. All right, cool. Have a good day. Next thing you know, boss calls me up. He's like, yeah. He's like, we're gonna have to head back out to that school. And I was like, oh, what happened? He's like, yeah, our conduit fell down. And I was like, oh man. And I mean, and it was crazy because he had easy anchors like that far away from a stud. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh man, if you would have just hit that one stud, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was so close to just hitting a stud. And so from now on, every time I hand an apprentice easy anchors, I'm like, what are they for? What are you using them on? What
Yeah,
I have some questions because I'm like, yeah, I want to see that happen again.
sure.
But it's something that you have to know. A lot of guys don't realize the tensile strength of those, like some of those drywall anchors aren't good enough. And there was a buddy of mine. You remember Mike Salinas? Remember he actually passed his journeyman when we were doing the
Mhm.
journeyman test. So I
Right.
talked to him earlier tonight, and he's working on like kind of like a low voltage project, and they're asking about grounding and stuff, you know.
Mhm.
And so I told him, I says, yeah, put that over in Dummies, and we'll address it, you know. And like I say, I might not be the one answering it. I might not even know. So, that's the whole thing. What me and James have kind of learned is we might not know the answer, but we know who to ask, you
Oh,
know.
sure. If I don't know something, I'll call somebody. I know so many people in the industry. I can make a call. They'll call me right back if they don't answer and tell me what I need to know. So,
Right.
for what we're going to talk about, first one we'll talk about, I'm going to share a screen just to prove to everybody it's coming soon. So,
Nice.
I'm going to show everybody here uh, some of the things that we've been working on and what everybody's about to see. This right here, the first thing I'm going to be showing everybody, this is the website that's being done. You can't get to it yet because I haven't published it out for everybody to look at. But this is going to sort of be where you come in and you'll see up at the top left, the main thing we're going to be pushing is for the license update series. And
Oh, dang, you got Texas now, huh?
yeah, matter of
All
fact,
right.
there's when you come down, I'll show y'all here in a minute. But what we did, we come in, we let you know that we have all different types of things that you'll be able to purchase. We have the state license update, then we'll have the fully interactive courses or basic courses. And the reason I'm doing that because everybody has a different budget, of course. So you can, if you want the interactive courses, of course they cost a little bit more because there's a lot more detail in it. But we also have basic courses. But what I did do is if you want a basic course, not pay as much and just use your code book to do all the studying, you can do that. But I also am going to leave it up on the calculations wherever we have them where you're filling in the blank. You'll still be able to do that. You just won't have access to all the sections and other things that are in there. And the one thing I like to point out is on our calculation problems, they're step by step, and all you have to do is just go in there, click on the blank, fill in the value. So you could be on the job, won't use it, put your own values in, or you're studying, you're doing prep tests. I mean, it could be anything or just studying. So we're going to have all of
Nice.
that. We had a thing in here with Dad. Uh,
Oh,
sort of,
I thought Great Boy was out of business. No.
yeah. That's Charles' line once again. It sort of reminds me, it wouldn't surprise me if it was him and some of his buddies that put out there before I ever came on to the sites and stuff. People, there's a rumor that was going around that we quit writing publications. We were no longer doing it. We were out of business, which was a lie. And, when I came on to the groups, people were saying, oh, I'm surprised you're here. I thought y'all went out of business. What are you talking about? And they tell me that's rumor. So somebody put a rumor out there. But anyway, we go through and we talk about the top features. You'll see here's the Death Match, the new one coming out, the 2023. And then the next one I'm going to do right after that's the Journeyman. And I will have a Journeyman and Masters that's coming out. And I also will have the calculation courses. Those are all the first ones that are going to come out. So when you come over here, you look at the state license updates, you'll see right here, we come in, tell you about a little update, everything you need to do, your update and everything. And like Alabama, there's 2 years. So I needed 2 courses for them that I'm doing. But like if I come down, say you look at Colorado, you can see we've done all brand new icons for everything. I mean, it is really, there's been a lot of work put in to all of this.
Dude, Colorado looks sick. I like it. Juan says you better be ready because he's in the weeks and months to come, Mr. G is going to start swamping you with questions and articulations.
Okay.
So,
I love
awesome.
it.
Bring it on.
Now,
We've been loving that.
as a good example for the people from Texas, I'll have 3 courses, and you'll see they all got different icons and everything for them. But because Texas, you do 4 hours every year, I'll have 3 different courses that'll cover that. So if you've taken one on there, the next time you take the next one, and the next one for the 3rd year, you'll have all that covered. So let's just say that I go look at the state of Texas here. It'll come in. We got a full setup. Now, don't pay attention to the top left. That's just a banner thing that shows all the different states. It just sort of is a rotating thing to show you how cool all the icons and stuff look. But I've already set up. The regular price is like $40, but all the courses that I'm going to do is going to be 50%. And the reason I did it to show 50% because I want you to go look at other providers and see what they're charging. Then with the 50%, see what kind of deal. And I will tell you this: this is it's also going to include with this. You'll get the state license, but we're also going to put in there where you get the full National Electrical Code changes. So you're actually getting a better deal. So
yeah, and just let everyone know, I had to fight really hard to get the full code changes because there was some jipping of some code changes in the past.
whatever. That was by state requirements. But as you can see, the website's already pretty much done. And if you're going into your exam preps, you want to see what the journeyman's going to look like. As you look at that illustration there, you can see all the blanks. That's where you would click on and start filling in, working the problem. So everything is step by step when you go through this. I'm telling you, the type of training we're about to show is really, really impressive. And then we tell you what the topics are in there that'll be covered. I mean, it's really set up nice. Now,
dude, I'm telling you, like, this is like improved probably like at least 5 times better from your 2020. And I really enjoyed your 2020. I thought it was a really good program. And like I say, the way you put it together is you really make sure that not only are people getting the 24 hours in the 24-hour time, but it depends. Like, I mean, to me, I got mine, like done quick, like I think I got it done within like maybe 2 days,
right.
And it was cool the way you had it set up where you could go to the next lesson or you could just stop at that lesson and you wouldn't lose your progress,
Sure.
I really like that because a lot of people, I think that's how you had it set up.
Yeah. Well, wait till you see what I'm about to show you. Okay.
Okay.
So when you click this little green button here, I'll have a link that's going to go over to the learning management system. And when you come over to the page, this is what it's going to look like. We're going to be showing you everything here, telling you the certificate. I've got course features in here. Then I come down through the topics and everything. And you can tell by just looking at all the icons and everything we have through here. You can click through here and see everything. I'm also going to have where you can go onto the site and have access to like 2 free courses, so you can go through and learn how it works. Now, this is what it's going to look like when you purchase it. When you come over here, you'll have right over here is going to be your learning path. And I'll have all this set up where it goes down through all the chapters and everything. And if it's with the state, you just can't go freely in it as you want. You got to go through each one of them step by step and complete it. And that's why I'm going to provide the code changes also with it. This will be a free open learning path. So you can go to anything you want, click through anything you want. So like you would have here definitions and general requirements. And the next one will be wiring design and protection in chapter 2. And then chapter 3 will be your wiring methods. And then of course, chapter 4 is equipment for general use. Now, this you can move to the side to see it in full screen, but down here on the left, I put a floating bar down here. Right here, we'll have all your different sections that you can go through and look at. So say I wanted to go over and look at what's in 110.16b took place. Click, there it is, it comes up. Now, when you start, hold on a second, let me get that video off there because it automatically plays. Okay. So when you come over here and you're looking at this, right here at the top, we tell you anything that's in yellow, a change occurred. If we show you something that got struck through, that text has been deleted. Okay.
Looks like old Juan's coming our way, James. So awesome, Juan. We'd love to have you over here in Colorado or Texas.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Now, as you can see, this is all the new text that's in yellow. Now, this is something y'all have never seen before. Right here, and I also do this in the video, and I'll show that in just a second. But
where are you talking about this on? Are you sharing the right screen? Because all I'm seeing is the 2020 journeyman exam prep like rolling through. And are you on the screen share still?
Yeah, let me go. Okay. So what it did, I gotta reset it. Let me reset it here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Sometimes it freezes up on me like that. Okay, no
okay.
worries. So here's the definition. Now are you seeing it?
Oh yeah, there you
Okay.
go.
Okay, let me show that.
I wonder whose idea that was to make the code change yellow.
Uh, when we first started this, we were the first to do this. We used to take and underline the text in the publications where the new stuff had happened. We were the first to ever do it. And then
Nice.
I guess the code book liked it so much, or NFPA did, they started shading it in the code book. And, somebody said, "Oh, that isn't true." I said, "Well, let me show you." And I showed them an earlier publication. They go, "Well, y'all were the first to do that, wasn't you?" I said, "Hey, you bet you we were." Now,
Yes,
I want to point something out that I think everybody's going to like on this is you have your learning path here on the left, but I want to show you right here, you have learners that you can connect with that are taking this course. It'll show you all the learners that are in here. Now, if I had like an apprenticeship and they wanted just a certain course, I can clone that course and give it a name just for them, and I put it on private. And the only people that would have access to that course is the instructors and his students, and they all can connect with each other, and they're the only ones that can communicate and discuss back and forth what's going on. So here in the
nice.
discuss, you can come in, you can share URL links, you can post images, pictures, anything you want. You can even start a poll or call it a poll or ask a question as an instructor. So you can always have communication just through this spot here with your students. Okay.
Nice.
And I haven't seen that in any of the other online education out there. Now, as you look at this right here is the little scroll bar right here. Right here, you can go to any topic you want that is an open navigation. Now, when you're doing state, you're not going to be able to do this. That's why I'm going to provide also the code changes with your courses. Now, one of the other cool things is right here in the text, you see everything that's new, that's in yellow. Then when you come right down below it, and I've never seen this in any other program, but we're showing you the first revision and second revision by the code making panel, what their substantiation was. So you can come in here and you don't have to take our word for it. We're showing you exactly how they voted on this. And then we
Nice.
give you a comment that sort of ties everything together at that point. Okay. Now,
So if I'm going to take your continuing education for 2023, would I have to have a 23 code book, or do you see me being able to get through it without a
you can
23
do it without it,
book?
and I'm about to prove it.
All right. Cool.
Now, when you come down here to the illustration, check this out. Now, you won't see this in any of the other programs out there. All right. This is a good example here. Let's just say I'm looking at this and I'm looking at 110.16b. There's the text that was up there I just showed you. Okay. Now, we're telling you also based on what happened in 110.16b for service equipment rated over 1,000 amps or more, we're telling you need to look at 110.21b, talking about the field applied hazard markings. You also need to look at 110.24, which is your available fault current. You also need to look at 110.25 as far as that being a lockable type disconnecting means. And then we can't put ANSI, but I can do 70E. So you also need to look at 70E, and here's all the information in here for the marking at that when you're doing your arc flash risk assessment for equipment labeling.
Nice.
So when you look at this over here, you'll see 110.16b on the left, and when you come down, you see the labeling that's required. But when I go look at 70E, look at the extra stuff you got to do.
Right. We got a hot tomato. We got a hot potato comment in the chat. Uh-oh.
What's that?
James, how does your course material compare to Mike Holt Enterprises, Ryan Jackson, or Tom Henry? I didn't even think Ryan Jackson had a code training course.
I tell you what I tell everybody. If they'll even show you their training, most of the training that's out there, what they have is a picture with text. And that's all that's on the screen. Then you go to another one and they put it in a player. The way that we developed this on the concept that was like you had our publication in hand, but the publication now becomes highly interactive. Okay. So
yeah, and then also cost is less, Juan.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this also. When you're doing the calculation portion where you fill in the blank, over here on the left-hand side in that black column, I also have a box that I've created in here that's called NEC Loop. And we put the sections in step by step when you're solving that problem. So you don't have to take our word for it. Just go look at the sections and you'll see everything we're telling you is true when you're performing that calculation. Now, another thing that we've added, and all of this takes a lot of time, but we also have a video that comes in. So basically, for the state license, this video, you'll have to listen all the way through. That's how I track all the time and everything to make sure you're getting the required hours from the state and they approve me with no problem. So I'll just play a little portion of this video to let you sort of hear what it sounds like.
The new 2023 NEC text for 110.16.
Okay, so as you can hear, we go through and we tell you what's taking place. And then when you get near the end is where we have the illustration. Now, even when you're in the video setting here, I want to show you something. Watch this. Hover above the section, click it. You have access to all that information too. And then we go through and
to 1,000 amps.
What took place in the change. So
increases worker safety. A new sentence was added.
Okay. And then after you finish each one of those, you'll come down here and you're going to get a question here. I can already tell you it's 1,000 amps. So you're going to hit submit and it'll tell you got it right. Okay. If you didn't get it right, it'll tell you the section to go look at our sections. So what's going to happen is, especially when the master exam comes out, the journeyman exam, you'll have a question down there on how to do a calculation, for instance. And if you miss it, it's going to come in and it's going to show you step by step why you missed it. And it's going to show you all the value sections and everything to do that calculation. So this is how we're setting everything up for everybody to come in and look at this and basically have a training education now that is not like any others that's been out there. And
yeah, and I like what David says. I do think it is kind of reminiscent of NFPA Link.
It is. And David, I was on NFPA Live, and they had me on specifically because Derek, who was running it at the time, Vixtel, he wanted to use NFPA Link with me doing problems and stuff. And it was funny. He told me, can you slow down? You're going too fast. But the reason that this works even better is because it's right there. It opens up. I mean, you're just back and forth. You have access to everything at the tip of your mind that is, I mean, I've never seen anything like, what does that say?
Oh, he's just saying that that yours is top notch, and you need to try to, yeah, you know, and it's awesome because we don't really try to compete with or James doesn't try to compete with anybody else. Everyone else tries to compete with him.
Yeah,
But
and I'll tell you one thing on our website and even on the learning management system, we tell you before you purchase, we encourage you to go compare it with other providers. And the
yeah,
reason we encourage you because we know what we've been able to accomplish. And this has taken 10 years, a little over 10 years to figure out how to make all of this work. And what you're looking at, I'm telling you, it takes me 6 different types of software from start to finish for me to get all of that into one spot. And
I kind of like what Mike says there, that the music's dramatic. It makes
yeah, dun, 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 dun.
But I really enjoyed it. I don't think you changed the music from your last one, but
no,
I
I
think
like
it's the same music. But no, it was really good. I really felt like I came out learning something, and I had an inspector that would come out and he tried failing me on something, and I was like, well, I just really want to see it in the code, and we'll have no problem doing this. And it got into a bunch of fire code and a bunch of other stuff that wasn't even really electrical code. We're in the international building code. We're in all kinds of codes, and so we kind of got code nerding out, a little bit. And it was funny because I just got done taking your code change class. So every day he would be like, when he'd come out to a thing, he's like, what new code are you going to teach me? And then I think at the time, there was certain ones I remembered off the top of my head. I'd be like, let's go. I was like, look up 410 69 or whatever, And then he goes in there. He's like, oh, I would have never even thought that they would have changed that. But yeah, you're right. You do have 2 grays in a 277 volt fixture.
Mm-hmm.
You have a 0 to 10 purple and gray, and you have say a brown and gray for your line voltage.
Right.
So they basically said that they didn't want the 2 grays, and then they said it could be re-identified, which was cool. But it was funny because every time the inspector would come in, I would have a new one that I had in the back of my head that I learned from your course. And I just would tell him, yeah, go look this up. Oh, wow, I didn't even know that, And it was a lot of fun.
It was funny because there was a couple of them come in and said, wow, you've got a couple in there. They're not in the other ones. The other providers have. You're showing stuff we didn't even know that was there. And I was like, well, when Dad and I do this, we have a system. And what I do is I go through, look at all the code changes. I never know what we're going to have, but we're going to cover it pretty good, what we think is important. Like this cycle, we did 238. Okay. Most of them are doing 100, 150 max. We go through and do a full coverage. So when you're getting that 2023 NEC change course, you are getting all kinds of stuff. What's the content as far as, oh, wow. Well, let me tell you what we got. For calculations, as an example, one of the courses there is electrical theory. And then the next one is direct current DC circuits. Then we have alternating current circuits. Then we go into applying formulas where you do Ohms Law and pi formulas. Then we do the combination of them. And all this is fill in the blank calculation problems. And then we have all your different wiring methods, how to size your boxes.
So that would be the Ohms Law. That would be like series combination resistive parallel circuits. Correct?
Well, that's actually going to be over in your DC circuits and AC circuits, where we get in talking about series parallel and series parallel circuits. So gotcha. we have all that, and then you got your wiring methods where we do all your different boxes. We start with round and optical boxes, and 2 different ones for each one of those for same size and different size. Then you get your square boxes, your device boxes, and then we get into your other type of boxes. And then we get into doing your straight pulls and angle pulls. I mean, it just goes through a whole bunch of wiring methods showing you how to do it. And then we get into calculating your conductors. Boy, he's really asking for them. Okay.
Yeah. Now, I think you have a special one on your motor transformer.
I will get into that. Course? Now, what we're going to have after I get all the calculations and everything done, which I'm expecting to hopefully be done by that October, hopefully September, somewhere in there. Then I'm starting on our publication, which is the generators transformers, motor, and compressor book we have, which is very detailed. So we show you troubleshooting when you're dealing with transformers. We've got, God, I bet you, I don't even know how many illustrations that we have in there that goes into troubleshooting, but we actually show you how to troubleshoot a motor that has no markings on it at all and how to ohm it out and everything and go in and actually remark that motor. So we show you how to do all that. I mean, when you, that generator transformer motor compressor book is very, very good. As a matter of fact, the illustrations for the journeyman and the generator transformer motor compressor book have all been updated and they're in color now. So you're going to get to see all that.
And don't worry, David. We got you, brother. You'll be the first to get it. So
you're going to get it. You're going to love everything that you're about to get, and the updates and everything we've done. And you know, there's one thing, and I can't say who it is because they're looking at wanting to sell our courses and stuff. But the guy that's over it, he told me, he said the most impressive thing about the course, he said, I love all your interactivity. I love the video explanation. He said, but the thing that impressed him the most is it is so simple to use and you have access to all that information with just click, 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 click. He said, he said, our staff's been looking at it and they're just amazed that all that information's there. And they got a full staff to work on theirs. And he said, we still can't produce what you're doing. Well, nice. The reason is because I'm just going to tell you, I spent a lot of money going through all different types of software and everything, getting software that actually meshes together. That's one of your problems trying to do something like this. And I worked and worked and failed and failed and failed till I found the software. And then I went with it. And then I started getting this to work, get this to work. That's why it's taken so long to be able to do this.
Yeah, it's really awesome. It's really awesome to have you in the chat, Juan. You know, like I say, it's not, we like to have discussions. We like to, you know, have different opinions and everything. So it's really awesome to have you in the chat, sir.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something, Juan. When I get everything done, we'll have our designing electrical systems put on, which is going to be the last one to do because it's about 1,300 slides. And I mean, it is a beast. But the first chapter I'm going to do out of that's grounding and bonding. But we're also going to have 70E, electrical safety in the workplace, with all the illustrations and everything. And then the other one, which we're the only ones have a publication that I'm even aware of, we're also going to put the 70B because that's going to become a big standard for your electrical equipment maintenance. And once I get everything done and all that and setting it up to where we even have the basic courses and everything, you're probably looking at over 150, 60, 70 courses. And there will be whatever tickles your fancy. You're going to be able to go in there and be able to purchase at a great price, lower than the rest of them. And I'll give you an example, and y'all can go check this, see if I'm telling the truth or not. But I'm going to give you a free course just on the layout of the National Electrical Code. You go to them other providers, they charge you for it. But I'm giving that free because I want the apprentices out there to start getting familiar with the code and then build up from there. And then, you know, that's why I'm giving 50% off. So go check the prices and then you'll see everything that we're offering that is at a better price than what you're getting from our competitors, you know. So
yeah, I compared the last time in 2020 when, like I say, there was nobody even in the ballpark. I think Mike was double, and you know, I didn't even really look at too much of the content of Mike's. But the thing that I noticed that Mike does a lot is he repackages old illustrations, which is nothing really wrong with that, but I guess it's an easy way to, you know, keep your illustrations and then just put new text on there and stuff. But I think that's what I really like about your stuff is you just keep building those illustrations. They keep getting color and they keep getting more detailed. And We could even post the one that we and you made together for the wedge motor.
Yeah.
I was out there at the plant, and
Okay.
I was making up motors and everything, and I just all of a sudden started telling, well, it's too bad. Is there a way we can make it like full screen or bigger?
No,
But
that's just the logo
oh,
on there.
oh, okay. But anyway, we were just sitting there after the show, and I just was like, yeah, the purple ties the gray, and that's 4 and 7 or whatever. I knew the terminal numbers, I knew the colors, I knew everything about it, and so we want to make like a T-shirt with that on there, and you basically have a motor cheat sheet for the motor points, and it's just based off me out in the field just making up motors, you know. And if you're in Texas, you're actually making up motors. So if you're, you're Colorado.
Well, I will tell you, I'm using a company called Printify, and that I can do shirts and everything through there, and I'll link over from the website all the different ones we have and everything. But you'll be able to go and get all that stuff that you wanted, and I think you'll really enjoy that. You can buy if you want a high voltage live T-shirt, or you want a Vote Academy T-shirt, you want an NEC for Dummies T-shirt. I mean, we're gonna have all the, and you get coffee cups and stuff like that, and it's just an extra little service working with another company that provides and makes all the stuff as you order it. So we're going to eventually have that on there. So there's a lot coming here in the next year.
And a big shout out to you, Mr. G. It's really awesome to have you around. Like I say, I don't know everything. I just know different things. But you know, it's about learning. It's about learning every day. I'm always learning every day. I'm learning new things. It's the whole reason I decided to go into fire alarm was because I wanted to know different systems. I wanted to know how to, you know, troubleshoot better. I wanted to know how the DC worked. You know, I wanted to know more about the Class A, Class B. You know, what is the requirements? What's the code on that? I mean, I even know fire safing code. I know different kinds of codes that, you know, I learned, and I still don't claim to know everything, you know, about every, you know, different topic. But, you know, the whole thing is, it's awesome when I get people that call me and say, hey, I think there's a code violation. Mm-hmm. And they send me a picture. I'm like, well, it's ugly, but it's not a code violation, sure. You know, and that's awesome. It means a lot that people do that. And, you know,
well, I can
shout out to Mike Kozlov. Didn't want to put you on blast for that install, but code legal.
Well, Juan, as a good example, right now, Dad's doing a publication that he wanted to go very deep into, and this is a guy that NFPA actually asked him to chair this committee. This is when they wasn't even allowing special experts, but because we do so much stuff in the oil and gas industry, they said, would you chair this? And Dad ended up putting like 5 new members on there that were very knowledgeable in that field, so they could get the hazardous location stuff all fixed, because it was screwed up when he took it over. And he was the chairman for 2 cycles, and I was his alternate. Basically, all I did was gather all the information, get it in order, so when we got ready to take it before the committee and stuff, everything was ready to go. Because I mean, it was a major overhaul. Well, what he's doing now, he's doing the high voltage. I'm sorry, the hazardous classified locations publication, and this publication, it's one thing that you're going to be able to do all the installation and design per the National Electrical Code, and that'll be one part of the book. Then there's going to be a second part that's classification. And when you get in to start doing classification, you actually need to look at NFPA 497 and NFPA 499. And Dad and I have been on the EECA committee, which is Electrical Equipment and Chemical Atmospheres committee, for a long, long time. I don't even know how many years now. But we're going to take those standards and show you how to do classification. We're even going to show you how to take different chemicals, have a mixture of chemicals, and then how to get the group number on it in order to do your classification. And nobody has a publication out there or anything that shows you how to do all this. So that's our next endeavor that we're working on right now. And I'm going to bring that to the online education portion. So in the next year and a half, there's going to be a lot of stuff that just keeps getting added and added and added. And you're going to have access to do stuff that on our site that other sites are not even going to be able to provide. And I've told people this many times. All you have to do is look at our publications, look at other publications, and one of the big differences you're going to notice is we cover a lot of very intricate stuff that that other publications don't. They cover sort of more of a basics. And one of the other things that we put a lot of time in, just like the illustration we were looking at, we also tie in all the other codes and standards. Most of the illustrations you're going to see out there, they'll have an illustration or a picture, and they put text there. They don't give you a lot of sections and codes and all of this and tables. We put all that in there because that information is important for you to click through so you know exactly what you're doing when you're performing a calculation. You're doing grounding and bonding. Maybe you're looking at something that you want to do for a service. Maybe it's different type of overcurrent devices. Maybe you're remember when I did the conductors and they were asking me about how did you get that 90 degrees C for that conductor and 75 degrees C? I said, go look at table 310.4A and you look in that second column there, you come down and it tells you what the insulation rating was for that conductor. Those are the type of things that you're going to have quick access to and you'll start understanding because even in our video, I go through and I tell you where it comes from. So,
and keep in mind too, I'm going to be pushing James to get more metal in his training courses because we're the only ones that have metal. Nobody else has metal. But Juan asked if we have any newsletters or magazines to supplement the main training material.
Yes, we are. Matter of fact, Juan, I'm glad you asked that. One of the things that I'm going to have on the website, I'm actually going to have a member website. It ain't going to cost anything, but you can come in there and I'll have where it links in to like a membership blog. And on that blog, I'll have links that go over to maybe a new video that Dad's did on his YouTube site. It may be an article that we decide to write to go in that we want to explain something in a little more detail. Then I'm also going to have, like Bill was talking about earlier, all this high voltage live podcast. I'm going to end up coming in and I'm going to clip the videos. So basically you can go in and you can look for myth of the week and I will have all the myths and I'm actually going to tell what that myth was. We'll also have the tool review, which tells about the different tools. And then we'll also have the topic of the week that we do on here where we go into full detail. Like a good one that we did was talking about voltage drop. And I showed from the American Standards Handbook when they started doing voltage drop and testing those conductors, and they were showing for like a number 14, like was it 55 foot? I think it was. At 55 foot, you should start looking at doing voltage drop. You don't get that information in any other publication.
I think it was like 75 foot for number 14 and like 8, like
I can't even remember now.
I think it was 75 foot for number 14 and 140 foot for number 12 or something like that. But it might have been less. I don't remember exactly.
I think it was. But maybe next week I'll do that and go through that again because that was one of our first ones that we did.
Juan, he doesn't have it all ready yet. When he drops it, then it's gonna be all active.
Yeah, if you just pay attention to our groups like NEC for Dummies, when that website comes out, I'll say the website's up and running. The courses are going to start coming, and every time a new course comes in, It could just be a calculation course like on electrical theory. I'm going to post it in our groups. This course is now ready. The next one, DC circuits, the course is ready. Alternating current, all of those, I'll just drop. This one's ready, this one's ready, this one's ready.
And there'll be a link in the announcements of NEC for Dummies too, Juan. So he'll pin the post so that you can see it right away when you at the top of the group.
Yeah, and and one of the other things that I'm also going to have one, you can actually purchase in bundles, or you can do a monthly subscription. So say like you wanted all the calculation courses, it may be like $50 a month or something. I don't remember what it is, but you will have that as long as you want, and you can, after you've learned what you needed to learn, guess what? You can be done with it. Say somebody's studying for the journeyman exam, for instance, or the master's. I'll have a monthly subscription, or you can just purchase the whole course as interactive, or you can just do the basic course, which is cheaper. But I'm giving you all these options because everybody has a different budget, and what they can afford. And that's the way I'm going to set it up for everybody. And
nice.
So if you're studying for the journeyman and you're actually going to get in after it and start really learning, you can go in there and say, I only need like 3 months, so it costs you $150. Or you did it in 2 months, it's $100. There might be one particular section you want to study that you need a little more refreshment. And that's one thing that you're not going to see the other providers. They don't have that. And we're taking that extra step. It takes a lot more time on our part to do it, but yet we want to be able to provide something that everybody in the industry has access to that they can afford.
So what's the number one free course that you have in your learning management system?
I'll probably do 2 of them. I'll probably do.
But I'm just saying, what's the number one best one?
NEC for Dummies.
Oh, the Death Match.
Oh, Death Match. I meant Death Match. Yeah, the Death Match. I don't know why.
NEC for Dummies. Dude, I never thought in a million years that I'd be dragging NEC Death Match to cart and clicking on purchase free course. Like to me, that was awesome. That's always been awesome. I think that's been like that since the second time, but you were at your first learning management system. I think this is generation 3, generation 4, something like that. But the whole thing is that every generation, is it generation 2?
The generation 3. Everything that I'm doing right now has culminated to this point. And in a way, I was upset, but now that I'm seeing what's taking place, I always believe things happen for a reason. And
yes,
now I'm seeing everything come together. It is fantastic. I'm just beside myself how good everything's looking. And
just so everyone knows, we do this a lot of episodes. So if you don't understand what the NEC Death Match is, it's a contest that me and James kind of came up with and culminated, whatever you call it. And we just basically kind of came up with, it's going to be 24 questions, 4 calculation problems, 20 code questions. The duration of the death match goes over a 9-month period. We post the test on the 1st of the month, and you have until the 30th of the month to complete it. You could take it anytime you want, any hour of the day. You have 1 hour, I believe, to complete it. If you leave before you finish it, it just gives you a score. I don't know how that works, but I've always went through and just finished it and got my 95% every time. But like I think this time I'm gonna try to get my 100%. But so like and like I say, David Englehart, he's one of the leaders. David Englehart is actually most likely to win, but at the same time, I'm going to be out there getting 95s and try to stay up there, just in case David slips or whatever. But it's really awesome. Yeah, I already did that one. But yeah, Juan, we'll make sure that you get the links and everything, and we could actually post them in the chat of one of our podcasts once we get that going and everything. But we're getting really close, and I really appreciate James for having me kind of help him like go break his stuff a little bit so that we could fix it. But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed learning and just going in there and kind of smashing out those 95% every quiz, and kind of keeping that high level of standard of those high scores. But when we first started the death match, I was like, oh man, this could be easy, and I don't even need my code book. I'll just go in there, I'll smash it out, right? So I go in there and I smash it out. It's all 65%. I'm like, what? And I was mad, and that's when we were only doing 20 questions. And I was like, man, what? I was like, what did I do wrong? I was like, I guess I got to go get my code book because whatever. And you're like, all right, I'll let you do one more, because that wasn't fair, whatever, So then I'm like, all right, with my code book and everything, and I got everything under control. And I went through and it was like, boom, 75. And I'm like, what? I mean, I was passing now, but I'm like, dude, I thought I got them all right, And then with the same exact questions, you're like, all right, from now on, it's going to be for real. This is the real test. This is how we're going to do it. And you had it kind of a little different. You could like review and stuff in the first one, you know what I mean? And kind of like you're not going to get a chance to review. Like basically, once you punch the answer in, that's your answer. You can't go back. So.
Oh, no, you won't be able to go back. You'll get to take it once. And if you miss it, at the end, it's going to tell you exactly why you missed it and what section it was in.
Right.
So you'll go over and look and go, yeah, that's what it says.
Yeah. And so then the third time I went back, then I got the 95%. And the one I missed was so stupid. I was so mad at myself. It was a question like, what interval is EMT conduit supposed to be supported at? And I put like 3 foot. You know what I mean? And I was like, what? I was like, it's 10 foot. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I should have had 100% that first time. But at the same time, you know what I mean? You just get those ones where you kind of kick yourself. You get those easy ones wrong. But the whole thing is that it's one of those things where you can't – it kind of helps you with that test taking, with that exam, with not focusing on the time limit. Mm-hmm. More just focusing on that you actually read it word for word, and that's really awesome. You are a Goodwill Ambassador, Mr. G, and that's awesome. I really appreciate having you and having people like you that contribute to what we're doing. And like I say, that's the whole reason we started the NEC Death Match, was we wanted to bring everyone in. And there's a ton of people that we might have to figure something out with, some kind of little handicap or something. Maybe give David an automatic -5 like every test, and give me an automatic +5 or something. Just that level the playing field. But it's so much fun to do it and to just joke around and just have fun doing it. Like I say, David's a highly intelligent individual and code master expert. I know David's called me about some code stuff before, and I've called David before about some stuff, and it's just awesome that we can just share our knowledge and just kind of go back and forth. David's a member of some of my groups. I'm a member of some of David's groups. Juan has some groups. I'm a member of some of Juan's groups, and so we're able to just go around, just kind of share this knowledge, spread this knowledge. And it just means a lot. Like, so the NEC for Dummies group started. We were in a specific union group that did not want us in there, but they didn't have any choice because their admin lost the password and couldn't get us out. So we were in there and we started just posting all the normal stuff like we do, like nameplate posts, the AC unit and stuff. And that always gets some fired up people, because people don't understand how you could put number 14 on a 30 amp breaker and it be safe and compliant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in an AC unit, the only thing that you have to worry about is ground fault and short circuit protection. Overload protection is covered inside the unit. So all you have to cover is the nameplate on that unit is code compliant. So if it says your minimum circuit ampacity is, let's just say 18 amps. Well, number 14 THHN/THWN is rated at 20 amps on the 75-degree C column. So as long as you cover that 18 minimum circuit ampacity, you don't have to worry about the 80% because the 125% is already calculated in with that nameplate. So
Right.
that's where they get that 18 amps minimum circuit ampacity. And then you can just go with the maximum lower current device, which in that case is like a 30 amp.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a lot of people like, oh, you guys are going to burn places down. It's like, how? It only goes 30 amps for a millisecond,
Right.
on startup. So that's kind of how it all started. And, so what ended up happening was a lot of the IBW fellers started attacking us. And we were like, man, we need to make a group to kind of like for everybody just to learn. Like, we don't have to call each other names on either side of the fence, whether we're union, non-union. We can just all learn together. It's all the same electrical theory. It's all the same stuff. And so I put a poll up in there and I was like, what should the group be called? And we had a whole bunch of funny names in there. I don't remember them all. But one of the names that came up was NEC for Dummies, and it got like the most majority of the vote. So I was like, cool, I'm going to go make NEC for Dummies, and everyone's going to be able to learn. And so we put it up there, had a whole bunch of people jump in that were really high knowledgeable people in the trade and in the industry. And it was fun. We had a good blast. We ruffled some feathers and we made some people mad, but at the same time, we're that only group that just doesn't back down, just has the courage to stand up there and,
Sure.
fight for what we believe in. And, to me, the biggest one that I have to say is our top number one is the ACs aren't outlets. And, that was my thing right away that I brought to James' attention. He didn't even know about it. And I was like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? I was like, I want to talk to you about this stuff. And he didn't even know. I kind of blindsided him in my podcast. But, the whole thing was, I was like, these guys are saying that the AC unit is an outlet. And I'm like, well, I was like, some of them say AC is an outlet. Others say the disconnect's the outlet. And then some of them say it's the wiring method. Some people say it's the seal tight coming into the unit. Some people say it's just there, just do it. Who cares? Just GFCI protected. Why you guys fighting us? So it was a rough battle, and I tried to kind of walk that tightrope between both sides, and I kind of find out the other side just wanted to cut the rope. They didn't want you to walk anything, and so it was really frustrating. But we try to work through it as a group, just to try to kind of work through it. And James came up with a lot of really valid points. I did the podcast, I think it was September 11th of 2021 on the Willie Jackerson experiment. And it was interesting because I just came home from work and I'm like, none of this stuff's making sense to me. Like, where are these guys just coming up with this, And then me and James James saw me on one of the podcasts, and they had Thomas Dimitrovich and Nihad El Sharif. Nihad El Sharif was the one who actually crafted the public input that was the basis for 210.8F change, which says all outdoor outlets are required to have Class A protection. And it was due to a child's death in Southside Chicago in 2007. Child jumped on a unit, crushed seal tight, energized 240 to frame of the AC unit, no equipment ground, and child was electrocuted. it was kind of one of those things that me and James kind of were like, wait a minute, how are you taking this situation and pushing it for new installations? Because this was not a new installation. I think that, and I don't know all the 100% of the whole facts on it, so don't quote me on everything, but I think the inspector was sued on the job and he was cleared of all wrongdoing because the original inspection was altered from what was originally installed. So what happened was, and I don't know exactly the whole details on this, I guess the original unit was either stolen or something happened to it. It had a problem. So they replaced the unit. They had the maintenance staff come out, replace the unit. What they did was tempt it in with seal tight that was approximately 15 to 20 foot long with no equipment ground and just 2 ungrounded conductors. And they got the unit running so that they could possibly have an electrician come out and rewire it correctly or whatever. So the child kind of got in the line of fire of some improper wiring, and it was a fluke accident. It's tragic, it's horrible, but at the same time, it really shouldn't be the basis for such a drastic code change for all outdoor equipment. James witnessed it when we were conversing with Tommy D and Nihad, and Nihad was like, no, it applies to everything. It applies to everything installed outside. Outside is water. Outside is wet. It applies to everything. And it's like, dude, like, you can't just do that. And then we were asking, like, well, hey, did you investigate the compatibility of EBSE? And they're like, oh, no, EBSE is a different code making panel. But code making panel 2 applies to it. You can't. Yeah, you can't just pick and choose like what applies where. Oh, well, if you hardwire, it's still hardwired to an outlet. Well, that whole hazard, that is the problem that I have. When you remove the outlet, when you remove the receptacle, do you remove the hazard? Per code, I would say yes, because in a hardwired instance, there's very low safety problems with that. I mean, if there was a safety problem, I can guarantee you it would be like when you look at like sump pumps. A sump pump, I don't care if it's hardwired or cord plug connected, it better be Class A protected. You look at a dryer. I have no problem with the dryer being Class A protected. I think that's fine. You have a lot of human interaction. I guess it was a lady, really sad story. I guess it was a lady and her daughter. And I guess, I don't know if it was the lady or the daughter got hung up on the dryer, and the mom or the daughter tried to rescue them, and both of them died, And so that kind of stuff is spooky. You don't want that in your house. You don't want fatalities in when you're doing laundry. I agree with that. I think that's a great change. You look at the ranges. I actually knew a guy who called me up and said he almost got blowed up working on his range while I was plugged in. Well, guess what? You probably shouldn't do that. And the whole thing is like to justify going and putting a Class A GFCI protection on that range because somebody accidentally worked on it live a few times. I don't agree with that. With microwaves, microwaves a new one in the specific appliances for 2023 and 210.8D. And, microwaves are, I don't really agree with the microwave thing. They say, oh, well, some people try to repair their microwave while energized in their house or whatever, Well, I guess maybe they should take it to a repair shop, So it's stuff like that, and, Juan says, if he recalls correctly, the Latino hillbilly. Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. I did. I did that on a Labor Day episode. I believe I did a thing on it if we should join a union or not. And Juan was an excellent guest on that. It was you guys have to go check out that episode. It was September. It was a September episode on the Willie Jackerson experiment. But yeah, thanks for reminding me about that one. But we run into this whole thing where me and James have kind of been, talking about this a lot. But where does this line get drawn? Where here comes code making panel 2, say we mandate Class A protection for everything that's installed outdoors.
They don't mandate nothing.
Yeah, and to me, and I told James about this too. I just recently installed an EVSE. I hardwired it in the garage. It was a location where it should be Class A protection. And the inspector came in and he's like, what documentation did he ask for? And did he ask for the code article or did he ask for the manufacturer instructions? I showed him the manufacturer instructions. It says personnel protection is provided with the equipment when hardwired. Boom. That's all I needed to see. See you later. They didn't question any single thing about it. 210.8F was referenced or applied or anything. So I really enjoyed that. I liked that inspector was straight up and he didn't say a single word about outdoor outlets. So
I'll tell you the thing that gets me, and this ties back into the podcast last week about listing and labeling of equipment and how UL goes about it. And one of the interesting things about that is when UL takes and they list and label their equipment, they do it based on requirements that are actually in the NEC. So if you have EVSE out there and they tell you no GFCI protection if it's hardwired, let me tell you, that has been taken into consideration before they put that in there. And the code cannot override that. And that's my whole point. So if I go out there and let's say that I just have a receptacle, okay? They make receptacles and breakers and know that you got to have GFCI protection out there. It specifically states that for those receptacle outlets. Then when you come over and get outdoor outlets, if you go over and you've got an AC unit, I don't see any type of thing that UL has put in their thing that says that needs GFCI protection. If it did, they would say that, and basically this is where I have a problem with some of this is where does code making panel 2 feel they have the right to say they dictate, or one person said that anyway. And I told him when he said that, I said, first of all, I've been doing this a long time. I've never heard where a code making panel dictates what a jurisdiction's going to do. So you look at all these jurisdictions now that are just completely doing away with 210.8F or making amendments to it. Why are they doing that? Because there's a problem. And this goes right back to the one thing that I said when all this took place and people were asking me questions about it. I said, first of all, as long as I've been doing this, whenever something gets put in the code and you're going to make a change like that, there's always technical substantiation provided to why you need it. And their technical substantiation, like you were saying a while ago, Bill, is based on this death, but it didn't have nothing to do with AC unit. It had to do with improper wiring and installation that caused that death. And for them to come in and use that as their technical substantiation is not correct way to do it. Now, another thing that I'll point out on that is code making panel 2 for the 2020, they had a task group that was put in place for the 2023 to go do all this testing. All the testing was done in Houston on all kinds of different units. They had the technical substantiation, and basically they come in and told them, we're never going to be able to do this. So I don't know what y'all want to do, but it's not going to happen. And we actually had a guy from Train. He actually called Dad, and Dad told him, just put in your procedure, which you will approve, no GFCI protection on this unit. Guess what? That overrides it, just like for that EVSC. Then what happened was code-making panel 2 rejected the TIA that was written by the test group that actually did the technical substantiation to provide technical merit for that change that they did. And then I can do that. I can do that all day long. Now, another thing that happened is it went before the floor, and co-making panel 2 wrote their own TIA, got a bunch of people up there, and as Thomas Demetrius said, Ryan Jackson got up there and did a mic drop. Well, let me say this. It must not have been too good of a mic drop, because then it went to the Standards Council. The Standards Council completely rejected what code-making panel 2 did. And you know why they did? Because it lacked technical substantiation. And they put the technical substantiation back in that was done by the code-making panel. Now, I'm going to say this. The people who are in code-making panel 2, and I don't care if it upsets them, you should be ashamed of yourself for putting something in and rejecting technical substantiation and merit that was given to you and doing your own thing because you want GFCI protection. That's where I had the problem with all of this. And so now we're coming to 2026. Well, guess what? I've submitted a whole bunch of proposals for like disconnecting means, for outlet. And I said, and I gave them all these options to tell me where an outlet is. And I brought this up, which nobody still will explain it to me. I said, if I have just a branch circuit, it says it protects an outlet or outlets. So I could just have a branch circuit going over there to just one receptacle outlet. That's it. I don't have to go, or I could be going to a switch. It's going over feeding the lighting outlet. It allows you to do that. Now, when I get over there and I look at an individual branch circuit, how all of a sudden does the definition of branch circuit tie into an individual branch circuit when it says it only supplies what? Utilization equipment. And then they try to say they're both the same definition, and they're not. And that's why they even put the definition for a motor branch circuit, is because of that problem right there. That's not an outlet. And, and it goes back, and I'm going to tell people this, and I know it upsets some of the competition, but I'm just going to tell it like it is. It's like Ryan coming over there saying, if I come from a panel board and I go over and hit a fusible disconnect, that's a feeder going over there. I called him out, and he had the gall to text my dad and tell Dad I was running his reputation and everything, which Dad agrees with me. It's been in our illustrations for over 30, 40 years, and we point to it, showed it where it says it's a branch circuit. Nobody has ever disagreed with that, and then when you go look at 430.24 and then 430.62a, it says a feeder supplies what? 2 or more, not 1. So how can that be a feeder? I mean, it's stuff like this. Some of these guys are putting out there saying this kind of stuff, and I'll give another example.
Well, I don't want to interrupt, but I know the one thing that bothered me with the whole, outdoor outlet thing was that they were like, well, code making panel 2 had to do something because code making panel 7 wasn't going to do anything, and code making panel 5 wasn't going to do anything. Code making panel 17 wasn't going to do anything. It's like, what are they going to do? There's nothing you can change to make anything change, Like, the whole thing is, like, let's just say, for example, you do go put Class A protection on your Tesla charger. Now, all of a sudden, your vehicle trips at midnight, and you got to go to work in the morning, and your car's dead. To me, that's a bigger problem when you're sitting there trying to go off this invisible hazard that we're all supposed to believe. If we don't believe this hazard exists of this line side of the GFCI getting people killed, because that's what it basically boils down to, is that they're saying that it's basically like saying you have to have a GFCI breaker for a GFCI outlet. You know, it's or a GFCI receptacle rather. It's just the hardest thing. And, you know, and Juan has a good point with technical substantiation, you know. It is, but, you know, consumer safety has 0 deaths due to correctly hardwired utilization equipment outdoors of a dwelling unit. As far as I know, and I'm sure that I think there was a HVAC guy that died, and I think there was a.
Well, I understand you got to apply electrical theory, because when you get into electrical theory, you know, you get into your protons, neutrons, electrons. You go through all that stuff. I get all the electrical theory, and then getting into the calculations and the different type of circuits and everything. But the technical substantiation that I'm talking about is providing the substantiation that they've actually gone out, looked at the electrical theory, everything that applies, and given their reasons behind something. You know, because you think it needs GFCI protection, you can't do that. You got to. I'll tell you this: when they put receptacles in outside to have GFCI protection and around sinks and stuff, why'd they do that? Because there were deaths that were taking place. True. On the AC unit, there were no deaths. It was the only 3 that they referenced were due to this improper wiring, and the other 2, they were performing maintenance. And when they were performing maintenance on that stuff, they did it improper. And that's why 70E and OSHA has to be followed correctly. Oh, you're welcome, Juan. And that's why I say you've got to take and have, you know, as long as I've been doing it, there was always technical substantiation that come in to explain why they did what they did. You know, I'll give you another example. Some of this is based on just dealing with stuff over a long period of time, like in the oil and gas industry, and we're dealing with hazardous locations. They have to take, and a lot of times, or most of the time, they have to custom make certain equipment out there, and they use UL standards there, electrical theory, the National Electrical Code, NFPA 497, 499, and if they're dealing with purge and pressurize, they deal with NFPA 496. Well, and then they say, we're not even done there. We're also going to look at API 500, which is the American Petroleum Institute standard. And they take all of that, and based on data that they've used on other equipment where it might have failed or it was operating properly, they may use some of that. And that's how they form a technical substantiation. So it wasn't so much electrical theory, it was field experience. You see what I'm saying?
And just a good example too of that, we've been out in gas and oil before, and they shipped the gear out, and the way that it terminated was you had this plate, and this plate was behind Bakelite. And so what you had to do is you had to bring your conductors in through the Bakelite, and you had to terminate it, like slide the Bakelite off, terminate all your conductors, and then slide the Bakelite back on. Well, they didn't like that because that's not a really good form of maintenance. So what we ended up having to do was we had to take pieces of gear that was extra or stuff that they didn't need, and then we had to go take that pieces of busing apart from the other gear, and we had to go in there, extend that out past the Bakelite, and then go and re-terminate it. We had to torque this, we had to torque our plates, we had to use the exact plates, the exact gauge, the exact thing that was already there. We carefully did this to where we knew exactly the property of that material. It was exactly the same as that. It came from the same manufacturer. We used the same torque specs that was provided by the manufacturer. We actually basically rebuilt this whole gear to make it how the plant wanted it for maintenance and everything else. And it was all inspected, and We did not alter the UL listing of that equipment. We maintained the integrity of every single bus bar as we did this. This is a 4,000 amp piece of equipment. You know, I mean, you do anything wrong in there, you're going to have a big boom. And basically, if you do anything wrong in there, what you're doing is you're building a bomb, you know, and you don't know when that's going to go off. That plant might ramp up to 200 amps for a year. But the minute that thing starts running full capacity and that gear starts running over 2,000 amps, 3,000 amps, whatever it is, that area that it has that weakness is going to go boom. And you don't want that to happen. And
I remember going out. I was in Oakland, California, and I was out there for was it Chevron or Exxon? I can't remember. But they took me over this gear and they opened it up, and they literally had in here these free floating bus bars, and then they had the conductors coming up hitting them. It was probably about 1.5 feet, and it was just hanging there. And they asked me, "What do you think of this?" And I was looking. I said, "First of all, I said I don't even want to be around it." I said, "But if something happens here, I said this gear's gone." I said, "You don't have the structural integrity in there to withstand the type of blast it's going to take there. It's going to damage it completely." And
well, yeah, at least needs to be lashed or something to try to eliminate those things from flying around.
Right. Well, you look at the way they do the new bus bars and everything coming in; they're all bolted in real close and everything to where the terminations are going to go. I mean, they're firmly in there. They're not going anywhere. And when you get an arc, it'll buckle that copper. Okay. But this, it wasn't going to buckle. It's just going to incinerate because there was nothing there to hold it in place. And I told them, if you're going to work on something like this, I said, you need to make sure you have everything completely turned off if you're going in there doing any maintenance or cleaning of that equipment. I said, I would not get in there while it's energized. And they didn't like that. What's this?
Yeah, and Juan, you have to look at, we can't really control the what if. I try to focus on the parts of the install that I can control. And I always have a second set of eyes on it with like the inspector and everything, and make sure that I'm using the correct torque values, you know, making sure that I'm following, just like James said, like I have a lot of these standards in my mind when I'm doing it. You know, I'm sitting there watching guys, we might do this for a minute. I thought about this one. I don't know if we ran it yet, but you know, a lot of guys don't think you have to torque your receptacles or you don't have to torque any small equipment, you know. But in all actuality, every single piece of electrical equipment has a torque specification. So if you're installing just a mounting screw, you should be mounting that to a certain torque, you know. And I like to think of torque when people talk about it as the amount of pressure to open a door is 10 psi. So if you're opening a doorknob, then that's 10 psi. So most electrical equipment is about double what it takes to open a door, and that's pretty easy to judge. I actually was messing around with it back in the day, and like I had a torque screwdriver and I was trying to get it perfect by hand, and I think I got that perfect click in my wrist where, you know, I get it about right by hand. But at the same time, some of these breakers, you know, we were running into there were these IT panels for the IDF room, and they just had straight slotted screws. Well, I knew right away a straight slotted screw for the lugs 50 inch-pounds. And do you know what 50 inch-pounds is, James?
Oh, you're talking about? I thought you.
Yeah. Do you know what 50 inch-pounds is basically?
I guess that'd be just like one twist, wouldn't it?
It's as tight as you could get it by hand.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Just a good hard twist on it. That
I mean, 50 inch-pounds is a lot. My torque screwdriver only went up to 34 inch-pounds. You know, so 50 inch pounds. I believe it was like, I think it was like 8 point something foot pounds or something.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever 50 divided by 12 is. Or no, it's 4.5 foot pounds.
That's what I'm saying. I thought you got it turned in there and get one hard turn, cinch it in. I figured that'd get you at 50.
It's basically as tight as you could possibly get it by hand with the screwdriver. And you're leaning into it, you're wiggling the conductor, trying to get it as good as possible, but there's really, I actually did at one point get a torque wrench that was set up for those slotted ones where I could put a slotted in there and get it like perfect. But the thing was that I found out was just me getting as tight as I possibly could with a screwdriver was the same as a torque wrench, right. So, that kind of stuff you kind of geek out on, learn over the years, like, you want to do things right. You don't want to cut corners and, like Juan, he's an excellent installer, excellent electrician. And he knows what I'm talking about, geek out on that stuff, like wiring terminations are, they are simple, but it's the whole thing of, if you're going to cut one corner, you might as well, if you're going to do one thing wrong, you might as well not even do it,
Well,
so.
I'll give you an example one. We had, last week I did the podcast on listing labeling. I actually had a guy message me that is really up in the trade because he thought that the NEC overrode it. And I said, so let me ask you something. I said, let's just take something very basic and say it's a wire weight. Okay. And I took him over the sections and stuff. And I said, and look at here, in the National Electrical Code, it tells you the minimum thickness. And I said, it even tells you not to use another type of metal for the cover because you'll get galvanic action and stuff. And I said, but let's just say I put some terminal blocks in there. I said, if I go over and look at table 312.68, and I'm going to take and come in from the side, bottom, whatever, depending on where I'm coming in, you've got certain clearances you got to have from that termination, from like an L bin or an S or Z bin, depending on which one you're looking at. And I said, that's code, that it has to be designed that way. I said, now, if that is in the code, do you think that UL would have to follow that? And he sat back, he goes, I've never had it explained to me. I said, take a panel board. I said, where they come in and they're going to make terminations in there. I said, they got to have a certain clearance. And I said, say I have a 200 amp panel board and you're going to come in with 3/0. I said, the clearance gets a lot longer, doesn't it? And he goes, it does, doesn't it? I said,
and that's standard UL 67, by the way.
Yeah. And I was explaining all that to him, and he goes, well, hell, he goes, I think I'm going to have to agree with you now when you put it to me that way. And he goes, you're right. They do have to do that equipment stuff by certain things that could be in the NEC. I said, sure. And I said, if there's GFCI protection that's required, like for an AC unit, they're trying to say, don't you think they would say that? And he goes, you got a really good point. He goes, and I said, so if I have EVSE and on the load side, they got the GFCI protection, which is like 20 milliamps or 30 for the unit. And that's going to protect the user that's cord and plug connecting into the vehicle. I said, and they tell you not to put GFCI protection if it's hardwired. I said, do you think that UL now has gone in and they've taken into consideration what the code says? And he goes, well, hell yeah, they have. And he goes, the way you explain it to me, he goes, I thoroughly agree with you now. He goes, I was wrong on my thought on that. And he goes,
well, yeah. And then you go into the whole point of like that chapter 6 supplements or modifies chapter 1 through 4, Yeah. And I guarantee there's some members of Code Making Penalty that don't want to hear anything modifies GFCI protection.
Well, I forget his name. He come over, he goes, the code doesn't say that. And And I took him over there and showed him where it said it. It went. I got ghosted after that. I said the code tells you that. I said it's up there. Article 90.7. It tells you. And he was like, he just went ghost on me after that. I was like, okay.